Have you ever watched a man spend his whole life building a house, only to be locked out of it when it's finally finished? That man is me. And now, I've decided to burn the whole thing down. My name is Richard Lockwood. 72 years old, father of 2, husband of 1, and a lifelong fool. I built this family from the ground up. I fed them, clothed them, paid for their education, gave them a home. And yet, to my wife and sons, I have been nothing but an old, useless relic. Maybe I should start at the beginning. I married Susan when I was 25. She was beautiful, charming, and, as I would later learn, rotten to the core. The kind of woman who could smile sweetly while stabbing you in the heart. She loved luxury, not love. And money, not me. At first, I thought it was harmless. She wanted fine things. I wanted to make her happy. So I worked harder, stayed longer at the office, took extra shifts, all so she could have her designer clothes, her gold jewelry, her expensive perfumes. I ignored the warning signs, the way she looked at wealthy men with admiration and looked at me with contempt, the way she sighed whenever I bought something practical instead of extravagant. And then we had children. 2 boys, Charles and Brian. I thought, foolishly, that fatherhood would bring me joy, that my sons would love me for all the sacrifices I made. But I underestimated Susan's influence. She raised them in her image, feeding them on tales of ambition, power, and money. They grew up watching their mother roll her eyes at my cheapness and laugh at my lack of vision. They learned to despise me before they even understood why. By the time they were teenagers, they spoke to me the way a master speaks to a servant, demanding, impatient, dismissive. Dad, buy me this. Dad, you're embarrassing. Dad, why don't you make more money like other men? The worst part? Susan encouraged it. If I ever tried to correct them, she'd scoff and say, "Oh, let them be, Richard. They're just ambitious." But ambition, in their case, was just a fancy word for greed. Then came the final blow. The thing that shattered the last piece of hope I had left. Susan was cheating. Openly. Shamelessly. With a younger man, someone barely older than our sons. And my boys, they knew. They knew, and they didn't care. In fact, they seemed to approve of it, as if their mother deserved better than an old, broke man like me. I should have left. I should have screamed, fought, done something. But I did nothing. Decades of being ignored had already dulled my spirit. So I swallowed the humiliation. I let them strip me of my dignity, thinking that maybe, just maybe, if I stayed, they would one day see me. But the body has a way of speaking when the heart is too tired to. The diagnosis came on a Tuesday afternoon. I had gone to the doctor for what I thought was just fatigue. Liver failure, he said. It's advanced. The words didn't scare me. They felt expected. Like my body was finally catching up to what my soul had known for years. I was dying long before the illness came. I didn't tell my family. Why would I? To them, my death would just be a transaction, a bank account unlocking. They were waiting. Waiting for me to collapse so they could pick apart my wealth like vultures. That was when I decided, if they wanted to treat me like a fool, I would show them how a fool plays the game. So, I sold everything. The house, the properties, the businesses. Every last thing they were waiting to inherit gone. The best part? I didn't tell them. I simply made it seem like, overnight, I had struck gold. A new car in the driveway. Designer suits. Lavish dinners at 5-star restaurants. And, of course, my favorite part, refusing to give them a single cent. Oh, the shift was immediate. The moment they thought I was rich, my family transformed before my eyes. Suddenly, my sons wanted to take me to lunch. My wife, who had barely looked at me in years, started calling me darling again. They thought they were playing me. But they didn't know the real trick was yet to come. If you are still reading up to this point, then I got you exactly where I want you to be, and the least you could do is liking and subscribing to my channel. Also, do not forget to trigger the subscription bell. Thank you for subscribing. Now, let's continue with the story. If I had known all it took to earn my family's love was pretending to be rich, I would have done it years ago. It was almost amusing, watching them stumble over themselves to impress me. My sons, who once rolled their eyes whenever I spoke, now hung onto my every word. Dad, you're looking great. What's your secret? Dad, let me take you out for a drink. Dad, we should go on a vacation together sometime. Oh, how their voices dripped with artificial warmth. And Susan? My dear, treacherous Susan? She transformed overnight. The same woman who used to sneer at my presence now clung to my arm like a devoted wife. She started cooking again, my favorite meals too. She laughed at my jokes, touched my shoulder when she spoke, even kissed me goodnight. The same lips that had spent years whispering to another man now tried to whisper sweet nothings to me. Pathetic. Of course, none of them outright asked about the money. That would have been too obvious. Instead, they circled around the topic like starving animals waiting for me to drop a scrap. Dad, you've been looking really good lately. That new car, it's impressive. Business must be doing well? Charles asked one evening, eyes sharp with interest. Oh, just a little luck, I said, sipping my wine. Some investments finally paid off. Susan's eyes gleamed. Really? That's wonderful, darling. Maybe we should start investing too. You. I chuckled. Investing? You never had the patience for that. Her smile twitched, but she recovered quickly. Well, I can learn. Maybe you could guide me. There it was. The baiting, the subtle push. They wanted me to open the door just wide enough for them to slip in. I leaned back in my chair, pretending to consider it. I don't know. Managing wealth is complicated. It takes discipline. The kind of discipline most people don't have. Their faces twitched just for a second, but they forced their smiles wider. The hunt was on. My goal was simple, keep the illusion alive while making them work for my affection. And work they did. Charles, my eldest, suddenly became the perfect son. Dad, I've been thinking. I'd love for us to spend more time together. Maybe go golfing this weekend? I had never touched a golf club in my life, but I smiled. That sounds lovely, son. Brian, my youngest, who once boasted about how he didn't need me, was now full of admiration. Dad, I've been reading about business strategies. Maybe you could mentor me. I almost laughed. Oh, I don't know, Brian. You always seemed to think I wasn't very smart. He swallowed. That was a long time ago. I was young and stupid. Yes, I agreed, watching him shift uncomfortably. You were. And Susan? Oh, she put on the greatest performance of all. Suddenly, she was a doting wife. She started planning vacations, bringing me breakfast in bed, even suggesting we renew our vows. She paraded me around her friends like a trophy, giggling like a schoolgirl whenever I so much as touched her hand. But my favorite moment came when she finally cracked. One evening, as we sat in the living room, she sighed dramatically. Richard, I've been thinking. We should move into a bigger house. I raised an eyebrow. This house isn't big enough for you? She pouted. Oh, darling, it's not that. It's just, now that we're doing well financially, don't you think we should upgrade? Maybe something with a pool? A garden? I mean, we deserve it. I nearly applauded. She thought she was so clever. The woman had spent decades barely tolerating my presence, and now she was trying to sweet-talk me into buying her a mansion. I took a slow sip of my wine, then smiled. You're absolutely right, Susan. We do deserve better. She beamed. Oh, Richard, I knew you'd understand. I leaned in, lowering my voice like I was sharing a secret. That's why I've been making arrangements. Her eyes widened. Arrangements? I nodded. Yes, big ones. But I can't say anything just yet. You'll find out soon enough. She looked ready to burst with excitement. And why wouldn't she be? She thought she had one. That after all these years of despising me, she was about to get everything she ever wanted. If only she knew what was really coming. Because in just a few weeks, the real owners of this house would be moving in. And my beloved family? They were about to be homeless. The day of reckoning arrived sooner than I expected. It was a bright Saturday morning, the kind of day that made you believe life was full of endless possibilities. Birds chirped, the air was crisp, and my family was in unusually high spirits. Charles had invited me out for breakfast. Brian had called just to check on me. Susan had woken up early to make my favorite meal, humming like a woman deeply in love. They had no idea their world was about to collapse. The knock on the door came just as we sat down for lunch. 3 sharp raps, polite but firm. I already knew who it was. Susan wiped her hands on a napkin. Who could that be? I took a slow sip of my wine, savoring the moment. Why don't you find out? She huffed, but went to the door, still in the blissful fog of her delusions. The moment she opened it, the illusion shattered. A well-dressed couple stood on the doorstep, flanked by a moving crew. The woman held a folder of documents. The man smiled politely. Good afternoon. We're here to move in. Susan frowned. Excuse me? I watched with delight as confusion twisted her features. This is our house, the woman said, flipping open the folder. We finalized the purchase months ago. Richard here was very thorough with the paperwork. Susan's head whipped around so fast I thought her neck might snap. Richard? I dabbed the corners of my mouth with a napkin. Yes, darling. Her face was pale now, her voice a whisper. What is this? Charles and Brian looked up from their plates, alarm creeping into their eyes. I smiled, taking my time. Well, you see. I sold the house. Silence. Thick. Suffocating. Beautiful. Then, all at once. What? Susan stumbled forward, as if she could physically stop the truth from settling in. You sold our home? Our home? Are you insane? Charles slammed his fork onto his plate. Dad, tell me this is a joke. Brian, always the slower one, blinked stupidly. Wait, what do you mean sold? I leaned back in my chair, stretching lazily. Oh, it's quite simple, really. I no longer needed this house, so I sold it. These lovely people now own it. As of today, in fact. Susan's lips trembled. You can't be serious. Where are we supposed to live? I raised an eyebrow. I don't know, Susan. Maybe with your other man. Her face drained of all color. Charles shoved back his chair. Dad, what the hell? You didn't even tell us. I shrugged. Oh, I would have. But you see, my dear children, you were too busy kissing my feet, hoping for a share of my newfound wealth. Brian, always quick to anger, jabbed a finger at me. So all of this was a lie? The cars? The expensive dinners? The money? I grinned. Oh, no. That was real. I just happened to spend all of it. Every last dime. Charles looked like he might vomit. You wasted our inheritance? I stood, walking over to the door, where the new owners were watching in awkward silence. Oh, I wouldn't call it wasted. I had the time of my life. I turned to my family, letting the final dagger sink in. But I suppose that leaves you 3 with nothing. Susan collapsed onto the couch, staring blankly at the wall. Brian clenched his fists. Dad, you ruined us. I chuckled. No, son. I simply let you ruin yourselves. The new owners cleared their throats. We should probably start moving in now. I stepped aside, waving them in graciously. Of course. It's your home, after all. As the movers started bringing in boxes, Susan and my sons remained frozen, unable to comprehend how they had lost everything in the span of a few minutes. I turned to leave, my heart light, my spirit free. For the first time in decades, I was no longer a fool. I was a man who had finally won. The drive to my real home was peaceful. The road stretched endlessly ahead, the world calm, as if it had been waiting for me to take this journey. My new house wasn't grand. Just a small, quiet cottage in the countryside, surrounded by nothing but trees and the occasional bird singing in the distance. I had chosen it deliberately, far from the noise, far from the greed, far from anyone who might try to find me. I parked my car, stepped out, and took a deep breath. The air smelled fresh, clean, free. Inside, the house was simple. A cozy living room, a kitchen just big enough for one, a bedroom with a bed that didn't creak under the weight of bad memories. I poured myself a glass of whiskey and sat on the porch, watching the sun dip below the trees. My body was tired, my illness lingering in the background like an old enemy waiting for its moment. But for now, I had peace. For the first time in my life, I was truly, blissfully alone. And that was more than enough. Please like, subscribe, and comment. Tell me where you are watching from. Also remember to turn on the notification bell.